sister, she was fine. She's finally taking mine from the bottle. She told me, oh man committed a crime, he's doing time. Now she's hanging in the bottle. I seen her out there on the avenue all by herself. She sure need help from the bottle. I seen her, preacher man tried to help her. She cussed him out and hit him in the head with a bottle. In the bottle. Little Gil Scott Heron kick this off. Hey, excuse me. Hope you're having a great Tuesday. Hope your week is getting off to a great start. You know, it is it's interesting what's going on here, I can tell you that. In fact, I got to go grab some medicine. And I'll do that shortly after I introduce my next guest, Mr. Frank Venucio, who's president of the American Analysis of News and Media and the editor-in-chief of its major publication, the New York Analysis of Policy and Government. Mr. Frank Venucio, we have a lot to chat about in this next half hour. Let's see, I'm trying to pull something up here. Let's see, Frank is over here. And gonna pull him up. Let's see. There he is, yeah. Hey, Frank, how you doing? Frank? Man, I hate this. I have no idea why we can't hear Frank, but I'm going to switch it. I'm going to switch a couple of things here on my system. Let's see. Oh, I know what it is. Hold on, Frank. I'm coming. Hold on, my friend. I know exactly what it is. These settings keep changing over here in these devices, and that's why we can't hear you. But now we can. Hey, Frank, how you doing? Frank, how you doing?
Charles, it's great to be with you.
Man, I tell you, I'll be so glad when I switch systems next week. It'll be a welcome breath of fresh air. Hey, how you doing though? What is going on? You know, I keep saying here in Chicago, you know, if Black Lives Matter, and I guess we lost about 16 or 17 souls over the weekend. So that brings the total to roughly 70 in the last 3 weeks, and over 200 people wounded. And how many black people were shot by police officers in Chicago during that time? Well, let me help you out. 0. So, do Black lives really matter to most people or to these people? Are you there, Frank?
Here's what's happening in cities and places like New York, Chicago, LA. The slogan isn't Black Lives Matter or White Lives Matter or All Lives Matter. The reality of it is, to the administrations of those cities and states, no lives matter at all. What we're seeing is a group of politicians, elected officials, who are intent on one thing only, and that is spreading their concept of socialism, implementing that, and they don't care who gets hurt in the process. Look, in New York, we've seen a huge spike in deaths over the past couple of months as the de Blasio administration has decided to cut funding for the police, has decided to invest money in all sorts of political programs. His wife has used hundreds of millions of dollars for which she has no explanation where the money went. So it's not a question of what lives matter. The reality of it is, to these elected officials, Charles, no lives matter at all.
Okay, Frank, you say that. And then I hear people talk about the socialism and this, that, and the other. I mean, explain yourself. What do you mean by that? You know, I hear these claims of socialism, but nobody expounds on that. So it really goes over the heads of most listeners and the audiences out there. You know, we hear people talk about, well, you know, these Democratic mayors, they want socialism and Marxism, and, you know, the Black Lives Matter is led by 2 trained Marxists. Well, they are. That's what they claim to be. But we need to break this down so that it's kind of like quid pro quo. Remember when the public didn't embrace that, or didn't accept that President Trump
had committed quid pro quo with the Ukrainian president, the Democrats doubled back down and said, well, wait a minute. It's Latin. The people don't understand. They're too stupid to understand what quid pro quo means. So we need to stop using that Latin term and tell them that, the president did something for a favor. We need to break it down from because they're just so stupid. I mean, it's an insult to me how dumb our country's
But
become.
you're right. When we say socialism, it's basically this, and you only have to look at places like Venezuela to understand what it's all about. In a capitalist system, basically you make your own decisions about your own life. In a socialist system, it's a group of self-proclaimed experts who hold all the power, who will decide what you can do, where you can go, what businesses you can own, and how you can spend your own money. Now, since the founding of the American Republic, we've had basically a belief in capitalism, and which is why the 13 small colonies clinging to the seaboard of the Atlantic Ocean eventually became the richest nation on earth. It was because of capitalism. You compare that to other powerful and huge nations, Russia, for example, during the Soviet Union. Russia has an abundance of resources. It has a brilliant population of hardworking people that were taken over by communism. At that point, their economy failed. In fact, it was doomed to failure. You look at Venezuela. Venezuela is a nation that sits atop an ocean of oil. By any objective criteria, the people of Venezuela should be among the richest on planet Earth. Instead, right now, they're among the poorest. It's because they transferred from a capitalist system to a socialist system, which simply doesn't work and allows the door to be open for powerful people to basically make off with the country's wealth to the discredit of absolutely everybody else. Now, we see examples of this in the United States. We look, for example, at the Clintons. They've used their official position to become multi-millionaires, billionaires. We see this as a way of taking money from the people and bringing it to a couple of powerful people, which is what socialism is all about. In New York City, we see a couple of very wealthy donors to the government. They get all the good deals, they get all the benefits, but the regular guy on the street corner, the guy who maybe runs a coffee shop or runs a small business, he's getting screwed to the wall. That's the essence of socialism.
Okay. Okay. I get you. I get that. I get that. But when you talk about, when you try to compare the United States, I think in Russia, Russia's always been poor. They've always been poor. They've always been behind the power curve. Tsar Nicholas wasn't assassinated because he sat on top of this great capitalist empire. I don't know what it is about America, but we're unique. And the reason I think we were unique and continue to be unique is because we were separated by two oceans, one on the east coast, one on the west coast. So we had to trade with each other. We had to spend our money with each other. We had to build our wealth here in this country, not across a continent. We called it a country, and we labeled that country the United States of America. Now, if the Civil War had succeeded and the Confederate States had, exited the Union, we would have two sets of nations here in America: the Confederate States of America and the United States of America. The reason I say that is when you combine these two economies, when you combine these economic engines, like one, we got the economic engine, the Industrial Revolution in the 1830s, just a masterful feat. But we still had the economic engine of the South and King Cotton, and people forget about that. So we had about a 40-year double dipping growth of industrialization and King Cotton agricultural wealth that made us a mega economy in the world. No other.
Well, it's so much more than, I believe it's more than that. First of all, the South was doomed to economic failure, even if they had won the Civil War, which thank God they did not. Their system of economics based on brutality and enslavement simply economically was not a good idea. Not only was it brutal and horrible, but economically it didn't make a lot of sense. Indeed, one of the reasons why a lot of unionists in the North weren't particularly thrilled about the idea of ending slavery was that they saw that as a potential rival for cheap wages going forward. Slavery is a bad economic idea as well as a terrible moral outrage. In terms of why the United States succeeded, though, it's so much more than just because we were protected by two oceans. That certainly gave us a massive advantage in terms of security, but in terms of economics, it's basically the fact that the United States, more than any other society ever created, up until our present time, for the most part, allowed more freedom for its people to invest, to do well, to even fail when they had to, and recover from failures. One of the geniuses of the American system was the concept of bankruptcy. You know, back in England, which had the leading economy up until the United States, if you failed, you could wind up in a debtor's prison. In the United States, if you failed, well, you wind up in bankruptcy and you get to start all over again. The freedom that the United States gave to each individual to succeed or to fail and recover from that failure is the reason the American economy is so much more successful than anybody else on the face of the earth. When you take away that freedom through socialism, that's when an economy begins to fail. That's when you have huge problems, when central planning begins to drive things crazy. When you have a failure of an individual farmer in the United States, well, that's too bad for him. His farm is going to go to ruin, but he'll try to start over, but the whole country doesn't starve. When you have a centrally planned economy, like you have in Russia or like you have in Venezuela, if the idea fails, that means all the farms, all the industries in that one particular circle, they're all going to fail and disaster follows.
Yeah, but my point being, Frank, that we were able here in America, in what we call the United States of America, to trade with various states. The interstate commerce that we officially recognize today. These were things that other nations didn't enjoy. I mean, look at you look at Europe. If I went from Chicago to Detroit in Europe, I'd go through two countries that had different currencies, different laws, different governments. Here in America, this thing we call United States of America, I always say that it's great because it was built on several things. One set of laws, the Constitution, one currency, uh, the I forget what they were now. It was one set of laws, the currency. I can't come up with the rest of them right now. I got to write them down again. But there are about five things I think that we have in common here, and that's unique in America. That's not unique anywhere else. I should love to go to Europe because I collect so many different currencies. I could go to the UK and collect the pound, and I'd go to France and get the franc, and I'd go get lira in Italy, and the Netherlands. You got another form. It was just wonderful having that experience. And here, you go to Georgia, you're still spending $1. You go to the Keys, you're still spending $1, right? So that synergy, that oneness, I think, and the bigness of that oneness made us who we are, this economic engine we have today, along with the things that you're talking about, of course. But just think if we didn't have, if all of these 50 states were sovereign states with their own currencies, their own set of laws, their own individual. I mean, we have our own borders, but it would be different. It would be a lot different if we didn't have those commonalities as the United States of America, which, of course, the EU has tried to emulate, and people have tried to emulate, but never been great at doing what we already have, which is creating that symmetry, that oneness, that commonness.
The European Union is an interesting example in this conversation. If you look at why the European Union has failed, and indeed it has failed, um, it's not so much that they were trying to do away with trade barriers between the European countries, which, by the way, were not very significant, even with the different currencies. different languages, and so forth. They managed to get around all that. The reason that the European Union failed is that they tried to take away the individuality of the nations involved and the geniuses of the people and started imposing authoritarian regulations that came out of a bunch of self-proclaimed geniuses in Brussels, the headquarters of the EU, and it stifled the European economy. And in a way, it was its own form of socialism. It imposed regulations on the European nations so that formerly successful industries began to not be very successful at all. Indeed, many of them started looking more abroad rather than within the European Union for trade. I'll give you one example. The European Union issued, this sounds like a joke, it is not, issued a regulation of what size and shape bananas could be imported into the European Union territory. Now, when you get down to that ridiculous level of regulation, it doesn't take long to figure out why that economy is going to drown in its own red tape.
Yeah. And the people, when we talk about Brexit, in fact, I won a bet with a guy named Fari Hamzi. He welched on the bet. He refuses to pay the bet. But I told him that, he lost on Trump, first of all. He lost the Trump bet, and then he lost the Brexit bet, even though Brexit was approved, or Brexit was approved before the Trump election or the presidential election, but it took them 3 years to iron this thing out and get the politicians out of the way so that they could truly pull the ripcord. I mean, the lady that they had in there, she was a anti-Brexer. What was her name? You see how insignificant she was. We can't even remember her name. The second woman PM. She's the second woman PM.
Okay.
Yeah, she was the second woman PM. I can't even remember her name right now. That's how insignificant she was. But I tell you, Boris Johnson, when he came into office, he was very clear. We are going to cut this cord like the British citizens want. We're not going to allow the politicians to continue to play games with the wants and desires of the people. And, it's really interesting that the politicians over there said the same thing that Nancy Pelosi says to us. We know what's best for you. You don't know what's best for yourself.
That's exactly right. And clearly the British people made it known that they wanted to get out of the European Union. But of course, the politicians, the leadership said, you're too stupid to make your own decisions. We're going to make them for you. And that's exactly what happened and why it took so long. And of course, let's not forget also the influence of the European Union on immigration, which is another major reason why the British people decided to opt out of the EU. The regulations that basically said that the Brits had to keep their borders wide open to a bunch of people who basically were not able to support themselves and refused to become part of British society. That revolted the average British citizen, and it's one of the reasons why they turned against Brexit.
Well, I was listening to the president of Goya this week, who I guess was at the Hispanic summit on Friday. And this is the difference between Hispanics and blacks. Those Hispanic leaders weren't in town talking about Hispanics in prison. They weren't talking about poor Hispanics. Okay? Black people, when they meet, they want to talk about that Martin Luther King bullshit. We want to help the poor people and the incarcerated. No, you need to help the American people who are trying to do something, you fucking morons. Why do black people always focus on the lowest denominator? We're Christian, and we're Christian. And that's why we're going to focus on the lowest denominator. We have to raise these people. I mean, we're the only people who actually try to do what the Bible, raise your brothers. I always tell them, you are not my brother. You're not my biological brother. You're not my Masonic brother. You're not my fraternal brother. You're not my, what kind of brother are you? Don't call me brother. You see, but because that term used to mean something back in the 60s, it means nothing today. So, the reality is, Frank, this guy said, and this struck me like a freight train. He said the Hispanic population has increased in the U.S. It has doubled since 2000. How in the hell does that happen? It doesn't happen through the immigration system. It doesn't happen through normal attrition. How does that happen, dude?
Well, it certainly happens in part because the borders were left open during the Obama administration. That's a significant way it has happened, and of course, it depends on how you count it as well. But the fact of the matter is, open borders, which cost the taxpayer billions upon billions of dollars, it's estimated about $134 billion per year that illegal immigration cost the United States, and that certainly results in an increase in the Latino population.
Yeah, and and the thing about it is these new Hispanics don't want to assimilate, and people are pissed. I have friends who say, they're very quick to say, "We don't speak Spanish in my house. We speak English. We're Americans." But you got these Spanish people. We're gonna have this. We're gonna have a bilingual country. But I swear to God, Tom Cotton needs to introduce an English only amendment. All the official documents in America need to be in English. All the voting ballots need to be in one language, English. The Constitution says you have to be an American citizen. You have to read and write English. That why do we have in California ballots are in 125 different languages? In California, voting. Driving booklets are in 125 different languages. How in the hell are people supposed to ever learn and assimilate in America if you continue to see? That's the problem with these liberals. And I say today, we have feminized our country to the point of where we're sissies, and the Russians laugh their ass off at us. Think about this, Frank. Last week, Russia just announced during gay pride month or history or whatever, that one, they passed a resolution that marriage is between a man and a woman. They don't buy into this gay stuff at all. So they're like, they poo-pooed, and Putin even made fun of the American embassy raising a gay flag. They laughed their asses off because it is comical to straight people. It is an affront to straight people, and that's how dynasties fail. I was taught that the Roman and the Egyptian empires failed because the men became homosexuals. That's what I was taught, and I'm not changing it.
Well, there are extraordinary parallels between the fall of the Roman Empire and what's going on in the United States today. But, Charles, I think even more of a parallel is what went on in both the aftermath of the Russian Revolution and in the aftermath of the Nazi takeover in Germany. The United States is a great and powerful nation. The reality of it is, though, that we are seeing a revolt from within. We are seeing people trying to take away our constitutional liberties. We are seeing people trying to take away the rights that we have that made this a great country. You only have to look back in history at how slavery became an institution in the United States. There was no immediate law passed saying, "Hey, let's establish the institution of slavery and bring over a bunch of people from abroad to be our slaves." It came about slowly and subtly. And the reality of it is, we are seeing bit by bit the rights of Americans, the Bill of Rights, being ignored. We see Chuck Schumer, the minority leader of the United States Senate, a liberal Democrat from New York, saying the First Amendment isn't absolute and shouldn't be treated as such. We see people saying things like you don't really have a right to privacy in most circumstances. We see the Ninth and 10th Amendments of the Constitution that say that those rights not given to the federal government belong to the people being ignored. Bit by bit, we're seeing our liberties being taken away.
And don't forget,
and it's not going to happen with a waving of an enemy flag crashing on our shores with with tanks and guns. But bit by bit, we're seeing our nation being taken from us by the elected officials, by the leftist Democrats and socialists who are going to destroy our Constitution, eliminate our Bill of Rights.
Don't forget the unelected officials. The Supreme Court continues to rule against the people. The people had a law called DACA, Defense of Marriage Act. And it was a law that was signed into law by Clinton. And the Supreme Court overturned the law. How crazy is that?
Yeah, it is. Charles, I have to run. It's been a great conversation. I look forward to our next one.
Yeah, it'll be great, Frank. But I tell you, man, what one of the things I really wanted to get into was this thing with Roger Stone. But we'll do that next time.
Looking forward to it. Thanks, Charles.
Thank you, man. Take care. Frank Venucio, y'all. Frank Venucio. Well, we're going to take a quick break and, regroup. And we'll be back with what? Let's see here. We'll be back and continue the conversation about who? Who is that? Okay. Got it. Okay. So when we come back, we're going to talk about the summit, the Hispanic summit versus the Black summit. I'll do a little comparison later. Here we go. Hi, this is Charles Butler, host of The Reality Check with Charles Butler here at Red State Talk Radio. Look, folks, don't put off tomorrow what you should do today. Remember this, health insurance is based on two things, the state of your health at the time you write the insurance policy and your age. We can't guarantee what our health is going to be tomorrow, next week, next month. And your age only gets older with each passing minute. So give us a call here at Harrison LLC. Our telephone number is 312-667-9111. Again, that's 312-667-9111. And believe me, we'll get right back to you. We're licensed in a number of different states, so don't hesitate to give us a call. And we represent over 30 different carriers. And we have a special deal for you union members. So if you call in and say you're with the union, we have some very special pricing. Thank you. Okay, well, we're back, and just wanted to remind you that you can give us a call at 312-667-9111 and pick up a quote on insurance as a investment vehicle, as a family protection vehicle, as a mortgage protection vehicle, final expense, Medicare, Part A, Part B. So call us. Let us give you a decent quote. We want to talk a little bit about the Hispanic summit with President Trump. And, I have all, much respect for Hispanic people and the great contributions they've made to this country. It's been, to me, it's just, I love it. I love to see people doing well. I love to see people competing and doing their thing. What I don't particularly like is Black folks going to these summits and constantly talking about poor ass Black people. Hello. Poor ass, backwards ass, criminal ass Black folks. That's the focus. I remember I used to do shows, and the kids used to say to me, I'd have kids come in WVON and talk to us, right? talk to us about what was going on in their schools. And they would always say to me that, the bad kids got all the attention. All the attention went to the bad kids. And that's true because, you have these bleeding heart women administrators and teachers. See, I'm not a bleeding heart. Get your behind in the seat, shut your damn mouth because you ain't got a damn thing to say with your ignorant ass, and get this lesson because I got mine. You need to get what I got. But see, it's so stupid today that these kids actually think that they have something to say. They actually think they're smart because their parents tell them that craziness because their parents are stupid. You'd be surprised at how many black parents I talk to who have an education who are just damn stupid because they want to be their children's friend. I go, was your mama your friend? Was your daddy your friend? They were your mama and your daddy. They weren't your friend. They didn't give a hoot what you thought or what you cared about or what you wanted for dinner. If we were having string beans, potatoes with a little bit of ham hock, that's what everybody ate. Johnny didn't get fried chicken or Popeyes or a hamburger. He got what was off the stove. We have become a society that is totally out of control. Totally out of control. And you have to ask yourself, why? How did that happen? These people want to be loved. They want their children's love. And you know what? I don't see anything wrong with that. You still have to be a parent. You have to, you have to tell your child what's right, what's wrong. And you have to be a disciplinarian. I feel that way. So these Hispanics met with President Trump and they talk business, man. They got down to serious business. Like, let's cut up this pie. Let's cut up this thing we call Americana. Let's make some money. So that's what Goya was talking about, the president of Goya. Let's make some money, dude. We're talking about po-ass Mexicans. We're talking about illegal Mexicans. We're talking about Mexicans who, do you realize that the Latino population constitutes 36% of people locked up in California? True story. True story. If you hear that noise, that's me drinking some water. Throat's a little dry. Throat's a little dry today, but that's okay. Woo. Okay. Let me see let's see. Andrew McLaren said it happens through illegal immigration. Yeah, Andrew, you're right. It does happen through illegal immigration. Illegal immigration. So I say, I'm putting on my chat feed, get the illegals out. See, we spend more money, believe it or not, on healthcare for illegals than we do for healthcare on vets. And then we always cheat the vets. Are these white people crazy? These white people have lost their damn mind. I'm not even going to count the black people because the black congressmen and women, if you want to call them that, I call them congressmen still. Women, it's men. Anyway. Women. I mean, see what I'm talking about? How nonsensical this stuff is. It takes away from doing the business. It takes away from real issues. It takes away from the impact of going out here doing what's best for the damn country. Excuse my language. So, as we look at this, at this, this blow up of Latinos being here who refuse to speak English and who don't like English and don't like Anglo, get the hell up out of here. When I hear them speaking that Spanish stuff, I'm like, who the hell are these people? It's just like the Chinese. They talk in these languages because they don't want you to know what they're saying. Bottom line is, it's rude. Internationally, it's rude to speak a language that, in a language that no one else knows or understands. It's considered rude. But the Chinese are very rude people. If you ever go to China and you move in their culture, you see they're very rude people. They don't say, excuse me. No. You have to bowl their asses over. Same way in Japan. You have to bowl their asses over to get their attention because they act like they don't see you. I'm just telling the truth. See, a lot of people want to sugarcoat things. But these Hispanics last week, they talked to the president about making money, about progress, not about no damn releasing some damn criminals out of jail. Give a shit about some damn criminals in jail. They need to be in jail. Black men are very violent people and very criminal people, and they have been a bane to the society, and they need to be dealt with, and they need to be eliminated. They don't need to be put back into the society. Kill them. Kill their little asses off because they think that they're it reminds me of this guy. His name was, he called himself Satan. And we had a rogue police officer here. I can't come with Burge. That was his name. So Burge couldn't catch Satan in the act. So he framed him. And so what he did was brought him in because this is Satan telling this story on the witness stand. He said, yeah, I was out in them streets. I was out in them streets doing everything I could to live up to my name, my street name, Satan. So he was a bad boy, right? He was doing everything he could to law-abiding citizens, to citizens who could not defend themselves, to citizens he considered prey. And I'm not talking about P-R-A-Y, I'm talking about P-R-E-Y. So, bam, Burge gets the guy off the street, brings him into a room. What does he do? They attach electrical cords to his testicles. And he was like, well, I thought I was tough until they put that electric cord on me, on my testicles, and I couldn't take it. No, you're supposed to have been so bad. You, Satan, you out here terrorizing people who couldn't defend themselves. And then we have this rogue cop who comes along. And I'm not saying what Burge was wrong, but he got the right guy to torture, as far as I'm concerned. Torture his ass some more. But then you had the Jesse Jacksons, and they're trying to defend. I don't give a shit about no damn criminal, no black criminal. Give less than 2 sticks about a black criminal, because at 9.9 times out of 10, they've hurt another black person. They've robbed another black person. Black on black crime is 85%. Black on white crime is something like 12%. White on black crime is 14%. White on white crime is something like 80 some percent, 83, 84, 85, 86%. You hurt those, you steal from those, you kill those who are around you, not the other way around. I love it. So, man, you can't make this stuff up. You can't make it up. They go, so the Hispanics are talking about money, and the black folks still talking about getting some Negro out of jail or prison who should be there. Oh, we have to look at the cause. You don't look at no damn cause. The cause is he did it. No cause. The cause is, why don't you enforce these laws to give black guys jobs? That's what you need to do. Tell me about no damn training program. You do OJT. You don't learn to be a plumber by sitting in the damn classroom. You learn to be a plumber being in the field. Oh, boy. Well, President Trump's back at it again. Pardon. Roger Stone, my good buddy. I'm going to get Roger on after he makes all of his appearances. But here in Chicago, we had the president, assistant to the president, say that he was trying to reach out to Mayor Lightfoot without any success. So this is Jerome Smith.
Makes no sense. I think what we tried to do is we did a convening there with Danny Davis, Congressman Danny Davis, and we put politics aside, moving the needle in those communities.
Yeah. It put politics aside for a minute, but that wasn't long enough. They need to do some real serious work here in Chicago. And putting politics aside for a minute, it's not going to get it done. as Jerome said, Mayor Lightfoot said, we need real change. It ain't gonna get done in a night. She's right.
And that makes no sense. I think what we tried to do is we did a convening there with Danny Davis, Congressman Danny Davis, and we put politics aside and convened some community leaders, looked at how we can leverage opportunity zones in hard-hit areas and create jobs for those communities. And we're willing to go back and do the work. I mean, these issues aren't about politics. It's about outcomes. And honestly, some of these things have happened for over 30 years that, many leaders promise that they want to do reform and don't lift a finger. But I would invite the mayor to work with us. We've worked with other Democratic mayors. If you look at the city of Birmingham.
She's not going to work with you. Lightfoot's not going to work with you because she's trying to make her bones on dissing Trump. She's trying to stand up to Trump. She can't stand up to Trump. She's a little weasel. She can't stand up to President Trump. Well, we had another defection over at WVON. It looks like my boy, it's a morning show host, Marks, I can't remember his name right now, was having some real issues because of content. The owner of the station didn't want him criticizing the mayor. Well, whenever you criticize the powers that be, people like the owner of WVON, she gets angry. She gets blowback because she's supposed to be the voice of Black America. Well, let me just say this. If you're supposed to be the voice of Black America, how come people are being killed out in front of your doorstep? When we were on 87th Street, you're talking about how great WVON is. The crime was so bad down in the area around the station that the Guardian Angels came down and walked and protested. It's a true story. True story, man. So take heed because people are not playing. People are not playing. And people are out there gunning for us, they really are. They really are. I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, oh yeah, if you want to call in number is 215-867-8255, 215-867-8255. Mays Jackson. Yeah. Mays Jackson was the guy who got canned for editorial disagreement because he was talking about little Stalin Lightfoot. That's what I call her. Little Stalin. With her little koofy haircut. Matt McGill. It wasn't Matt. I love Matt. Matt's a good guy. Hey, but look, this is what I need to say. I need to say to y'all out there. Black folks need to stop trying to measure themselves by criminal activity and criminals. These criminals need to be locked up. The key needs to be thrown away. We need to leave them alone. Roger Stone. What am I going to say about Roger? I talked to Roger about 3 weeks ago, and he thanked me for my support. Thanked me for being there. I haven't really spent a lot of time with Raj lately, but great guy. And I knew that the president was going to commute a sentence. I'm glad that happened because he's a great guy. It needed to happen for him. Obama committed the sentences of 1,700 people, including a few terrorists. I mean, this guy Obama was a dangerous boy. The damage that Obama has done to the American espionage network is incredible. I don't know if we'll ever recover. But we're hanging tough because we're Americans. We're vigilant because we're Americans. So when Stone gets out of jail, where they commute his sentence, he'd have to go to jail. He has this to say on Hannity last night. Listen to
experience
this.
you can have, because I see immediately why 99% of the people who choose to plead not guilty and go to trial lose. When you're up against the horrific and deep-pocketed resources of the federal government and these really sadistic, arrogant, politically motivated prosecutors, I had a biased judge, I had a stacked jury, I had a corrupt jury forewoman. As my friend Tucker Carlson said, my trial was over before it started. When you go through something like this, Sean, you find out who your real friends are and who the people are who really never were your friends. You have been a tremendous friend. You have done a great job of keeping people informed. But I have to really single out your Fox News colleague, Tucker Carlson. He took up the cudgels early. He stayed on this case with every twist and turn, wasn't afraid to take on the judge, laid out the jury question. It encouraged me when I got discouraged. He's a man of incredible loyalty, and he's a great friend. He may be the best friend a man can have. So my hat's off to him.
That's great. That's great. He talks about Daryl Scott, the preacher, and some other folks. But I'm glad Roger got his sentence commuted. Like he was saying that, most people were getting their sentences suspended and moved, and they weren't reporting to prison, but they wanted him to report to prison. And he had respiratory issues his whole life, and he said it was going to be a death sentence. I'm laughing only because the prosecutors knew that too, but they try to kill you, man. These guys are ruthless. They're ruthless. They're heartless. They're serious, and they're dangerous. They're dangerous to society. They are dangerous to society. Okay, so T-Rob had put a message out there and he retracted it. Don't know what that's all about. Man, it is hot here in Chicago, I tell you that. Man, it's hot, hot, hot. But look, we're going to talk a little bit about the need. I was speaking to a friend Sunday, and this is a woman who I've known, for well over almost 50 years. Oh man. And it's really interesting that she told me that she wanted to buy a pistol. She lives in San Diego. She said she needs to buy a pistol. And I said, well, why? And she said, well, because I feel vulnerable. She lives in a great neighborhood, great neighborhood. And I said, well, but you need to take some lessons. You need this, you need that. And this is the first time in her life, even though she and I have been in situations where having a gun was certainly an equalizer for where we were and the people we were dealing with. And she knew that. She knew that. We were in places where if I hadn't had a pistol, I don't know if either of us would be here today. Because that equalizer sets the tone. As De Niro said in one of his movies, some people respect the badge, but everyone respects the gun. It's true. So you have to meet fire with fire. Oof. Oh, man. Joe Biden is finally coming out of the closet. That's going to be interesting. Out of the basement. Oops. Flour and toilet paper back in stock, but there's a catch. Okay, cool. Well, I can tell you this. I'm looking forward to getting out, getting some fresh air, This cabin fever has really gotten me down, I tell you. It's not something that a place where I want to be. Yeah, I'm sure he's got some of you guys down too. But the judge, they say, there's a great op-ed in New York Times today. And it really talks about some things that I've often talked about, and that I've had guns pulled on me about 12 times when traffic stops. So it involved a car and me driving down the street, right? So today's paper, New York Times, did an article, and they said black behind the wheel. On a road trip to Detroit, reflections on the car as a symbol of aspiration and adventure. But if you're black in America, that lovely machine isn't always a refuge. How true. I know about that. You know, having driven BMWs and Porsches and Saabs and things like that, nice cars, cops always have some questions they want to pull you over and ask you. Not that you committed a traffic violation. They just want to talk. Oh, yeah, right. So this guy's doing a spirited demonstration a few weeks ago, driving across Woodward Avenue. It's a 30-mile motorcade into the suburbs, billed as the I Have a Dream protest cruise. Wow, because Martin Luther King protested about 25 years to the date, going to marching in Detroit. He marched in Detroit before he marched in Washington. The march in Detroit was put on by and organized by the people. The march in Washington was put on, supported by white liberals like Bobby Kennedy and Stephen, name just got past me. It was, can't come up with it right now. Millionaire guy, Stephen. Anyway, these are all things, man, that we need to talk about. We need to write about. We need to put in the book. Again, but it's about this poor thing, going back to poor. This guy is writing about the I Have a Dream cruise on Michigan Avenue. I know Michigan Avenue well. Walked it, I've driven it, I've cycled it. He said, my mind drifted strangely to an empty 2-lane highway in Arkansas near the Texas border. The memory was jarring. He said he swept me away from the raucous caravan and honking horns, black power fists thrust from car windows, and the whirl of sirens back to my youth in the spring of 1986. He's young. 1986, man. That's 34 years old. 22 years old, fresh out of college, cruising into one of the prettiest sunsets I've ever seen. I was nearing the end of my 1,200-mile journey from Detroit to a summer reporting gig in Dallas, somewhere outside Texarkana, Arkansas. The sun perched on the nose of my Honda Accord and guided me for miles. I'm sure it did. He said, I'd only witnessed those white boy come after age film, The Guardian. He just saw it. He said, wow. Anyway, you can't make this stuff up. Hey, look, we got to go, but we'll be back tomorrow. Talk a little bit about Detroit, what's going on there, and this driving while being behind the wheel while black. So have a good one, folks. And I will be back to give you a hand tomorrow. And we're going to have, we got a guest coming on tomorrow. I can't come up with his name right now. But we have a guest coming on tomorrow. And let's see. Yep. Yeah, we got a guest coming on tomorrow. And I'll tell you who it is when I go out to the website. Thanks. Take care. Compared to what? Alexa, play Les McCann's Compared to What?
Listen to me. See that sister, her shop was fine. She's about to take that wine from the bottle. Avenue all by herself. Sure need help from the bottle. I seen her.
Black folks need to stop trying to measure themselves by criminal activity.